Today, we're going to finish up the Slovenith winter-themed tree lord. Rapid fire. Yo dog, Kenny Bichet here, Next Level Painting, hitting you up on the literal best of all days. On this glorious Friday morning in the Beats Lab in Hollywood, California, I've got another painting tutorial. Part 2 of painting the tree persons, as I like to be referred. We are not going to drag it out to a 3-part, 4-part series, even though I have enough information to do that. What I did was I edited it down to be a fast, concise tutorial of how we do all the paintbrush strokes, how we get all the details popped out, how we do all the blends, how we get them on its base, all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not going to drag it out. Last week was all airbrush, this week all paintbrush. I want to do a quick shout out to a couple patrons. Wouter Van Asseldonk, Stefano, my man Justin, James, my boy Chris, Rubin, and my man Victor. Thank you guys, can't do it without you. Patreon is how I keep the lights on. It's my personal crowdfunding page. Twitch is my personal TV channel on the internet. We got Tuesday giveaways and Freestyle Fridays. You definitely are not going to want to miss it. A lot of stuff happens over on Twitch exclusive. TheLongword.net is the home of the battle reports, the fastest growing library and video content for Warhammer and Warhammer 40k. All right, guys, let's take a look at them. This is what we've done so far. All the tree lords. Here's the winter guy. He's basically done in this picture, and I'm going to show you how we did it. So let's start off with this brown from Game Color. This is a Vallejo color. Love this color. It's got a very plague tone to it. We're going to take it, going to water it down, and the only problem with this color is it doesn't have a lot of stick, so it's going to require several thin coats. Just going to have to be patient with this. This is the technique of this with this color. You know, there might have been other colors with more stick. The problem is we're painting this directly over a basic black. So that's going to be tough no matter how you cut it. So nice thin coats, and we want to blend it up slowly because we want to emulate the smooth transitions and the subtle blends that we did with the airbrush. And the only way really to do that is with really subtle thin coats, build up the colors. So here we are, several thin coats of this brown, picking out every little area. This is the heartstone. This is like the skin of this model, where the bark is the armor. This is how you create contrast. Some people online, I've been watching them paint these models and they've just been skipping this this skin effect. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, I was tempted, but then I remembered this is next level painting. So we went through, hit it all. I mean, it is a nightmare amount of work, but it is ultimately very rewarding. It's not super difficult if you break up the model like I did here. And so there's the first coat drying. You can see it's very thin. You can see all the black through it. You know, several thin coats. Now let's add a little Men Off White to it. And we're going to start blending a little bit of the Men Off White highlight, which is a bone color, into the brown, and just start subtly picking out those ridges. Very thin. This is literally going to take probably 4 or 5 applications from the beginning to the end. Very subtle, thin blends. Let it fully dry, reestablish, let it dry, and just softly blend these transitions into it so you get it to be very smooth and it looks just like an airbrush, because I don't want there to be texture. I want it to be as smooth and indistinguishable as possible from the actual airbrushed armor. Okay, now let's grab some of this Prussian blue and blue green. These are both Vallejo colors. Let's do some quick dry brush. It's a little out of sequence, but this is the order I did it in because this is what I felt like doing at the time. We're going to dry brush that beard that we washed last week. Gonna do it nice and soft. Really hit those ridges. This is a very exaggerated detail on this beard. Like it's very dry brushable, but you want to make sure it's very subtle. You don't want to get that dry textured look. So you want to be very subtle. So I'm not actually gonna go back and forth 1 billion times. I'm gonna come on and just a couple quick swipes, very controlled, build it up. I'm not doing that thing where there's almost a zero paint on the brush and we have to go over it 1,000 times. It's more like there's a little bit of paint on the brush and I have to go over it a few times. Let's real quick, while that's drying, let's paint some brown on this staff. This is literally just Vallejo wood. It's a pretty good color. And also, before I forget, let's apply all those techniques we did on the skin to the back of this guy's dome. See, I didn't even notice the back of his head until later. So that's why it's out of sequence. You know, like that's like when these models are so crazy like this, sometimes you just go out of order. Let's paint these leaves real quick. We're using our classic Iosin and Gnarls Green combo right here. Not hard at all. Let them dry, come back to it later. What we're gonna do now that we have everything done for at least a base stage is we're gonna hit it with a gloss coat. That's Vallejo gloss varnish and air thinner. Once it's dry, we're gonna apply some washes to that staff. But even though that's a lot of varnish to just wash a staff area, it's mainly because these paints are so subtle and so thin on the skin that I need to protect it to the maximum degree. And a gloss varnish will protect your paints better than anything, especially something like this, which is just a glossy acrylic medium. Okay, let's go back to the basic colors we used at the beginning here. These are blacks, blues, blue-greens. We're using all the gauntlet of these colors that we use on the bark to come back in with the detail brush. The same exact colors, Prussian blue, blue-green, raven black, a little bit of white. And we're just gonna find all the little vines, roots of these branches, anything that sticks off the armor. We're coming in there and we're just augmenting them and giving them more sharp contrast beyond what the airbrush was capable of doing. You see, these are very simple strokes, building up to the brightest peaks with the white. You know, a little blue, a little black, pause. A little bit of white mixed in with that, pause. A little bit of pure white mixed in with that. Just subtle layers. You can be a little bit more extreme on these darker colors because we're trying to create that gleam, that exciting transition. You can see, it's just a matter of finding every little spike, slowly blending it in. Give yourself the time to do this. This is one of those things I talk about. You save a lot of time with the airbrush. You need to take that time you save and put it back into doing details like this. You can see we came in and highlighted his cock robe, all these other little spikes and randos that stick off his body. We glued his face on. We didn't actually glue his face on, I'm just showing you in this picture. So here's something I did when you guys weren't paying attention. We went through and did the OSL, and you're gonna wanna follow the link here to do this OSL. I'm not gonna show you all the OSL tricks in this video, but we did a previous video on the OSL. Okay, let's move ahead. We're going to do some quick details on his face with the blacks and the blues and the grays that I've been showing you this whole video. Quick highlights, come in fresh, give him some extreme sharp contrast on his spine. Like when you're going up to a white, I love doing the dark side highlight where like wherever the shade is, the darker area, I love hitting that with punching it up with a bright shade or a bright highlight. It gives it that totally reflective, gleaming quality. Now, at the end of the day, I'm not a scientist. I put the highlights where the highlights speak to me. So we drew some highlights here, drew some on the swirly pattern on his face. You know, you can see that aggressive highlighting on the dark areas of his armor, on his wrist, on his arm. This is what I like to do. So let's go back to our original mix. The brown and the bone highlight. And now we got to do his feet and his legs. This is probably the most obnoxious part of the model. It is very difficult to get your paintbrush in some of these areas. You're going to end up getting some of this bullshit on the airbrush armor plates. It's practically unavoidable. So you're going to have to come back in there and cut in some of this slop, some of this spillage. So recognize this is going to be a two-part step here. You know, you're going to paint this skin same exact way, you know, subtle, thin coats, build the coats up over and over again, start adding your bone highlight color to the raised areas as we do. Its feet are even more obnoxious. He's got these crazy toes that come out, and then he's got like a break in the armor there. And then again, between the break in the armor and like the shin, like I don't know, top of the foot armor to the shin armor, you can still see some of his skin through it. It's obnoxious. So you got to be careful not to get this shit all over the place. But now it's time to come in there and start blending up these colors like we've done before. Several thin coats. You can see now what that crazy ankle skin I was talking about that I picked out. Obnoxious. Let all that dry. While it's drying, be efficient. Let's do some quick dry brushing on this staff. Now I am coming in different. I am coming in with a very subtle dry brush here. Not like I did before. This is the super subtle. We're going to do multiple strokes over and over again. I really want to build out those ridges. It's got some very subtle lines in it. And then what I'll do is I'll come in with the paintbrush after I'm happy with this rough dry brush. Like when I get it to the place I'm happy with, I will pull out some more details on the wood with a detail brush instead of a dry brush. Easily done. There it is. Pull out a couple of clutch areas, draw some nice clean highlights over that wood. Very easy. Just pick out the same wood color you used before. It should now be a highlight since you washed it and made it super dark. Easy mode. All day, every day. Now it's time. After the last couple of highlights, pop them out, maybe add a little bit of white to your mix. Be done with it. So now you can see we came in there and we snuck in and we finished those feet. No reason to show you the same exact process we did before. But you can see here, I started painting in the base work to the OSL in all those rooms. That's an orange brown. I'll explain it briefly. That's an orange brown, followed by an orange, followed by more orange, followed by even more orange, and then eventually pure yellow. But it takes a lot of time to get those blends. I'm talking about it's a billion coats of very thin orange brown to get that spillage. And then you have to re-intensify it toward the center over and over again until you get a very classy OSL. No airbrush involved here. So we do have a full video on that. Here's what the guy looks like after the fact. He's looking his best here. Here's his buddies right here from the other groves, looking their absolute best. At the end of the day, I'm pretty happy with this. If you like these tutorials, check out Next Level Painting on Patreon. Become a patron of the arts today. We offer early and exclusive access to our videos and a rewards program for different pledge levels. Patreon is PayPal and credit card secure, so you don't have to worry about that. We use 100% of the money to improve our process.